Hi, Max. How are you?
Sergey, I'm doing great. Thank you for having me again with you and with the Russian Dealer Association. I'm very excited to be here with you.
Thank you, Max, for participating, first of all. For those of our viewers that don't know you, Max is one of the leading experts on car dealerships management, and he's especially well known for optimizing operations and coordinating different departments, which is one of the key aspects of the overall management. Max is also an author of several best-selling books in the United States. We had an honor of publishing two of his books. One is The Perfect Dealership, and the other one is Car Business 101. They are called a little different in Russian, but they are very popular. We're hoping to publish some of his other books soon. So Russian Dealer Association has asked us to see if Max will participate in interview, and Max has graciously agreed. So we have some questions that we want to run by you. And the first question is sort of obvious. It goes right to your expertise. There are some disconnects, I may say, or some differences, different goals between different dealership departments. Can you tell us a little bit about what they are, what they can be specifically?
Well, this is a loaded question because I think not just car dealerships, a lot of organizations suffer from this type of a problem. And a lot of times you're right. In many dealerships, different departments are not on the same page. I'll give you a very simple example. I think it's a classic conflict between the used car department and service department. Used car managers often feel that they're being overcharged for the prep work, or that the cars are not frontline ready in a reasonable amount of time. Another example would be a conflict between the sales department and the F&I department. Oftentimes, F&I managers feel that salespeople don't plant enough seeds regarding F&I products during the time they spend with customers. And because of that, the handover of the customer from the sales department to the finance department is not as effective in the eyes of the finance managers.
So these are the typical problems, and I'm sure there are a lot of others, but these are some very typical problems that exist in the car dealerships. Certainly, to make the dealership work effectively, some effort has to be taken to connect the dots, connect the departments, set them to go after the same goals. Who should initiate this contact? Who should initiate the effort to sort of try to make the departments work together more effectively? Who should be the leader in this initiative?
So there are two sayings that I live by. First saying is that if it's not written down, it's not real. And the second saying is that you have to inspect what you expect. So if it's not written down anywhere, why would you expect for different departments to be on the same page? Now the question is, where should it be written down? And I think there are three options, right? You can write it down in your mission statement. You can write it down in your corporate values, and you can write it down in your policies and procedures. Now, here comes the funny part. Just because it's written down, it doesn't mean it's going to get done either. So this is where inspect what you expect comes into play. So making sure that all departments are on the same page is the responsibility of the owner or the general manager, and the initiative must be driven by the senior management team. There should be regular meetings among department heads in order to improve the sales process and reduce friction.
So let me, because it's very important, let me underscore, make sure we got this right. So there are two sort of cornerstones that you feel are important to coordinate the departments. One is to have the agenda, to have the goals outlined somewhere, clearly outlined, be that in a some sort of a book, or it has to be somewhere in writing. It has to be shown. And the other one, you said it, I heard this expression before, but not for a while, inspect what you expect. In other words, make sure they comply, make sure this is actually happening, and you know, whether they are indeed marching towards those goals. But the answer to the question, the specific answer to the question, the initiative has to come from the top. If it's not coming from the top, it's just not going to happen. So exactly. It has to come, whether if it's a hands-on owner, it has to come from the owner. If it's a large group and the owner is somewhere out there, unreachable or whatever, then it has to come from the general manager.
Absolutely.
And he has to get involved. This question may not sound like it's within our subject of discussion, but it really is. Automotive industry is considered to be a high-tech industry. However, the technologies and even best practices they're slow to be implemented. They're not coming in fast, even if they're proven to work. There is sort of inertia within the minds of the dealership employees, or even the general managers, or even the owners. Would you happen to have any specific recommendations how to overcome the resistance, how to overcome the inertia of implementing what works, implementing new, how to, I don't want to use the word force, but how to get the people to accept it?
You know, perspective is everything. So in this case, if you change your perspective and realize that you're no longer competing with other car dealers, you are actually competing with Amazons, Apples, and Teslas of the world. And once you realize that as a car dealer, that's when you're going to start adapting new technology that eliminates friction and improves customer experience. Because don't forget, these companies, they condition our customers every day that everything should be quick and everything should be easy. And also don't forget that car sales is a zero-sum game, right? Every car sold by Tesla is a car not sold by a franchise dealer. And also keep in mind that Apple is working on developing a car as well. And time is really running out for car dealers to adapt technology that simplifies the sales process and that makes life easier.
It's a very interesting question. I got the concept, and it actually sort of a light bulb. When you said change the perspective, perspective is everything, I thought I was starting to write down, okay, how do you change the perspective? That was my original question. But the perspective is not how you change the old perspective. The perspective has to be changed that you're no longer competing against your car dealer down the road, or even in the same zip code, or even in the same city. The times have changed. Car dealers are competing against huge monsters like Amazon, like Apple, those companies that provide customers with a seamless customer experience. And this is your competition right now. So the perspective, the state of mind has to change from you're not competing with the car dealer. Well, you're still competing with the car dealerships, but your main competition is those completely different companies. And that is, once this changes your perspective, then your mind opens up. Okay, how do we do it now? Okay, so this is a great answer.
Exactly. Exactly. You see, if you're competing with just car dealers, right? Most car dealers are in the same boat, right? They're all not really quick when it comes to implementing new technology. So you can justify and say, well, the other guys are not doing it. Why should I bother? Right? But once you start realizing that the other guys are not that important, it's the bigger guys that actually change and condition consumers' behavior, right? And we are, right, their customers as well. I guarantee you that most car dealers that you work with happen to be Apple customers.
Without a doubt. Max, I know that your company also is very knowledgeable and actually specializes in compliance issues. We all know that the amount of regulations around automotive retail in the United States is increasing every year. Every year, there's more and more and more that you have to comply with, and the non-compliance can cost thousands, sometimes millions of dollars, and can drive you into bankruptcy. So, and naturally, you're an expert in those issues in the United States, but in Russia, the situation is also moving towards more and more compliance. So within your understanding of automotive retail, you know, with an understanding that you're not an expert on automotive retail in Russia, which regulations, which legal aspects do you find the most important to comply with among all of them?
Right. So you're right. Compliance is a very important issue because, at least in the United States, regulators see car dealers as the low-hanging fruit due to the fact that car dealers traditionally do not have the best reputation out there. And I think the majority of violations and majority of headaches in the United States come from the F&I department. And it's a true minefield. And if I may, you know, I'll focus on 4 particular things. First is falsifying credit applications. So basic things like juicing income, increasing years on the job, reducing rent, exaggerating job titles. That's your definition of bank fraud. And it is done on a regular basis in order to receive a more favorable approval from the bank. This is a common practice throughout the United States. The second issue is power booking. So power booking, for your viewers that are not familiar with the term, means that you're basically lying to the bank about the equipment of the used car. And again, you're doing it so you can get a greater advance from the bank to maximize the approval and maximize your profit. The third issue is payment packing. So when you quote a payment, it has to be based on 2 things. It has to be based on the sales price of the car and sales tax, nothing else. So if there is a lag in the payment, right, then we get into the 4th issue. And the 4th issue is jamming F&I products. And jamming F&I products means inserting F&I products into this packed payment without customers' knowledge or consent. So usually these 4 issues, these 4 offenses, come hand in hand. If there's one, there's the other 3, right? So it's the responsibility of the dealer to have internal or external auditors audit the F&I department on a regular basis to prevent this from happening. Because if you don't, 2 things are going to happen. First, customers at some point are going to come out of the ether and file a complaint with the law enforcement agencies. It's extremely easy to file a complaint. You do it right from your phone, right? Number of complaints indicate that there's a pattern. Once there is a pattern, a law enforcement agency will initiate an investigation. Unlike car dealers, law enforcement agencies have unlimited resources, and they will find everything they need to find, right? And that results in fines, like you mentioned. I'll give you an example. This year, a Honda dealership in New York City was fined $1.5 million by FTC. That's a lot of money. And the second issue that results from these practices is that customers not only file a complaint, they also leave a negative review online. And at this point, I honestly do not know what is worse, right? Because we live in the age where your personal opinion doesn't matter, right? What matters is the third-party opinion on the internet. So if I Google XYZ Toyota and all I see is 2 or 1 or 3-star reviews, I'm going to move on to the next dealership, right? So when I say I don't know what's worse, what I mean is this. When you get fined by a law enforcement agency, that's a monetary penalty. When you get penalized by the consumers through negative reviews, they result in reduced traffic in your showroom and reduced traffic on your website. So it's more of a slow death.
I see. This is very important. Again, I don't want to go into specifics how much of it applies to Russia, but some of it applies for sure. So you see that you said that the compliance is a minefield. I think you said that. And one of those areas of this minefield where there's the biggest concentration of mines, if I may say so, is an F&I department. And then you outlined 4 specific areas where there is big danger of those mines. Let me ask you about another. It sort of goes hand in hand with compliance, but it's a little bit different side of it. We certainly understand that over the course of their normal business, car dealerships, especially F&I departments, accumulate enormous amount of customer data, far beyond name, email. They have the income, where they work, how much money they make, the social security number, which in Russia is different, but the same. So they have all customer data, and it's as personal of a data as you can get. And this is stored somewhere in a database, and some systems, some DMS systems have some better protection, some worse protection. Every now and then somebody breaks in. So it happens. It can happen to the best of us. It can happen to some companies which are much better protected than car dealerships. So let's say it does happen. What do you suggest in this case? Should this fact be hidden from the customers and just, hush, hush? Should the dealership let the customers know? What would be your suggestion in case of a massive data breach?
So first, let's address this issue. Most hackers do not want to hack because it's hard. It's hard work, right? If you had a choice as a hacker between hacking a car dealership or just going there and taking the information from the dealership, you would go with that option, right? So what I'm trying to say here is that we have to look at 2 things. We have to look at the physical security and electronic security. And physical security sounds very simple. We're talking about access control. We're talking about doors. We're talking about locks. We're talking about keys, keypads, right? And I'm speaking from experience, right? There are numerous times when I go to a car dealership and the F&I office or the BTSC department either does not have a lock, does not have a key, or sometimes does not have a door. So I can just walk in, take a deal folder, put it in my bag, and walk out. Or I can walk in, take a picture of the credit application left unattended on the finance manager's desk and walk out. I don't need to hack anything. So physical security is very important. Now, electronic security must be addressed as well, right? And this is a little bit more of a technical area. So, but the basics are the same, right? You need to have passwords on every workstation. You need to make sure that these passwords are changed on a regular basis. You need to make sure that they're not easy to guess passwords. I'll give you a perfect example. I did an audit at a BMW dealership, and every single workstation in the dealership had the same password. And you guessed it, it was BMW. You know, so people need to get a little more creative, you know. I'll give you another example. A large auto group decided to conduct an experiment. They sent out an email from their chief information officer to every employee asking them for their username and password. 84% of employees responded with their credentials without thinking twice. The problem is that the email never came from the chief information officer. It came from a very similar email account. So that's how information gets stolen, right? So this is where education and training plays a part, where you have somebody like a compliance officer or a network administrator conduct regular training for all employees of a car dealership. Because listen, you can be working in accounting and get an email asking for your credentials and just give them out. You know, so it's not limited to sales or F&I or service. Everybody has to be involved in training and education. And these threats evolve, right? So you need regular training to address the new threats, because these hackers, they get more and more sophisticated. Now, to address the second part of your question, if the dealership is actually a victim of the data breach, what do we do, right? So first and foremost, you have to have a written plan that outlines exactly what is it that you're going to do when it happens. For example, someone must contact law enforcement to make a report. Second, you need to contact all of your customers and let them know that your dealership has been a victim of a data breach. You need to get in front of it, not hide from it. Right? You have to notify these people most likely by regular mail, because your email might be compromised. Right? And finally, you really should have cyber insurance. And you have to immediately contact your insurance company to start the claim, right? Because they have their own personnel that they will dispatch to the dealership that will try to help you resolve the issue. But having cyber insurance in the 21st century is a must for every car dealer.
Mm-hmm. Because it's very important, I want to underscore this as well. So before we go into what we do if this happens, we have to make sure that we outline what is important to reduce the chances of this happening. One is the physical security, and this can be as easy as the door locks, keys, and just to secure the facilities. And as strange as it sounds, sometimes it gets overlooked. And the second part is the electronic security. Make sure that every workstation has the reliable password. Train the employees on not responding to any request, or at least question the request. You make a phone call. Did you just send me this, request for my password? Some simple thing. And then what I actually heard, and I think it's very important, it goes back to, I think, the first question or second question, have everything written down. So this same applies here. Have a written plan. If this does happen, what do I do? Don't get caught by surprise or unprepared. This, we all hope it doesn't happen, but if it does happen, you know what to do. You have all the steps outlined. And in the 21st century, it is important to have cyber insurance. I'm not even sure if this exists in Russia, but I'm sure in some sort it does. I don't know. But it is a very important.
I'll give you another example when it comes to having a protocol in place. Let's assume for a second that I walk into a dealership dressed as an employer of a phone company, and I ask to get access to your server room. If you don't have a protocol in place to call the phone company and verify that I'm an actual employee of that phone company, and I'm here on the company's business. You just handed me keys to the kingdom, right? You gave me access to the server room. I mean, talk about easy, you know?
Yes, it's actually a good example. Let me sort of go back to working between departments. We all know that in car business, just like in any business, the motivation is important to get people going, to get them, you know, to achieve certain goals. This can be money, this can be some sort of a reward, this can be a trip somewhere. Is there any specific motivators, be that money, be that rewards, whatever that may be, that you would recommend specifically within the framework of getting the departments working together? They have these people have their own pay plan, these people have their own plan. What do we do? How do we motivate them to work together?
So I'm going to go back to the conflict that exists between service and sales. Especially now, we are in the environment where there are inventory shortages and the used car prices are through the roof at the auction. So the cheapest and most cost-effective way for car dealers to acquire inventory would be directly from consumers. And the easiest way to do it is in your service drive. So a lot of dealers, even prior to this situation with inventory, would set up a sales department or a mini sales department within a service drive. And they would look at the car and, let's say, if there's equity in it, right, they will tell the customer, instead of paying this repair order that you're looking at, why don't you use this money as a down payment? And we'll put you in a new car for a similar or even a lower payment that you pay now. And if you do that, right, you take away a lot of incentives from the service drive, from the service advisors and technicians, right, that put their heart and soul into inspecting these cars and trying to upsell the work. So what I suggest in this case, if the sales department convinces the customer to do that, they have to pay the service department, meaning the advisor and the technician, for the work that they sold at a customer pay labor rate. And then there is no conflict and there is an incentive for both departments to work together because everybody wins.
I see. So the best motivator is to avoid potential demotivator. That's the you know, so in order, you know, if you got the customer to trade in the car out of the service drive, don't come to the service advisor and tell them, listen, you don't need to do any of this work that you already
just do the oil change. I just do the oil change.
Yeah, or even if that, yeah. So that's correct. So if they already sold certain amount of work, let them do it at the rate that the customer is ready to pay, and then you eliminate the conflict, and that would be the motivator. Then the service advisor knows that sales department is not against them. They're not going into their pocket. And they may even think, listen, you know, why don't I call this salesperson and let him talk to this customer? Because, listen, I'm going to get paid faster at the same rate. So what's the big deal? This customer may ask for a 30-day delay in a payment. The sales department will pay me right away. So the worst case scenario, I get the same money. The best case scenario, maybe the salesperson will give me $25 burgers. So the best motivator is to eliminate demotivators. That's a great answer. That's a great thought. Max, and I got the last question, which is also, I think, is very important. Over the last few years, we talk more and more about digital communications with the customers, online communication. And this is in the various stages of progress. Some dealers think it's not happening. Some dealers are too lazy to even think about it. Some dealers are going in that direction. But let's just take this all aside. These trends, the digital trends, do they put out new challenges for the car dealership dealerships within the framework of the departments working together. Talking about sales, service, HR, what are
every dealership that I go to has a BDC department whose job is to get customers to come to the showroom. Somehow, most dealerships that have a BDC department for sales do not have a BDC department for service. So let's say we have all the technology in the world, right, that helps us make appointments online, right, for service. Or the customer comes in and we record in the repair order that they declined the particular service. But if we don't take care of the basics, like following up, right, and service BDC is absolutely mission critical. If you look at the profit margins on labor, if you look at profit margins on parts compared to profit margins on cars, this is a different ballgame. The sad part is that, at least in the United States, 97% of owners, general managers, and partners came up through sales. And they really lack understanding of parts, service, and collision. So again, technology is great, but we have to take care of the basics. If I'll give you a sport analogy, right? If you look at the a football team or a hockey team practicing, they don't practice anything crazy, right? They practice the basics, basic passing, basic running, right? Because this is what the game is based on. It's not based on something insane, right? It's based on being able to do the basics every single day and do it well, right? So for example, if your service advisors actually record every declined service on the repair order, but you do not have a BDC department to follow up with these customers and bring them back and say, hey, Mr. Customer, last time you were here, you declined the brake job. At this point, 45 days later, for example, it's absolutely safety and mission critical for you to get this done, right? If we're not going to call these customers and relay this basic message, then what was the point of all the technology that we used to get to this point, right? We installed the fancy appointment scheduler on our website. We pay a lot of money for the DMS to generate a repair order, right? And then we don't do anything with it because we don't even think of having a BDC department in our service department.
It's a great, let me also underscore that because this is also very important. First of all, so the challenges of digitalization. First of all, if you're really going in that direction, start with basic things. Don't just concentrate on some advanced interaction with the customer. Just start with digitalization, the basics. The second, what I heard is balance the effort between all the departments. It cannot be applied to sales just because it's easy to comprehend or understand that, yeah, the customer wants to buy a car online, but it's just as important, maybe even more important, in service department. So balance them out between sales, service, maybe F&I, to have a customer an opportunity to see those products online before they even show up. And the other thing that I heard is spread the effort through all the stages. Initial contact with the customer, while the customer is in the showroom, follow-up process. So the digitalization has to cover everything from basics through all the departments and all the business processes that exist within those departments. So this is the approach the true digitalization should take.
Right, meaning, you see, robots don't sell cars, robots don't sell service, robots don't sell parts, right? Robots help us do that, but this is still a people's business. And this is still a business that requires a personal touch. And at some point, you either have to do it in person, you have to do it on the phone, right? But if you are going to trust technology 100% of the time, it will not get you anywhere. It has to be a combined effort of technology and people.
So technology is not there, no matter how good it is, no matter how advanced it is, it's not there to replace people. It cannot replace people. It should not replace people. It's there to help. It's there to structure their efforts. It's great. It's a great answer. Max, I want to thank you very much for your time on behalf of myself, on behalf of Russian Association of Automobile Dealers and the entire Russian automotive community. Thank you very much, and we enjoy working with you.
Thank you. Thank you. It was an honor to be here with you today.